Hey guys, Ryan here. First off, thank you for 1,000 subscribers. It's been a very unusual month of activity on the channel, so I think YouTube must have promoted one or two of my videos in ways they haven't done before. Anyway, thank you for enjoying the content and I hope you're looking forward to what's coming up. Super appropriately, it looks like my 25th video is going to relate to the recent 25th anniversary episode we've had. But more importantly, what does Dimensions in Danger mean for the future of Power Rangers? Firstly, the big novel thing that stood out to me initially, in hindsight, isn't actually that groundbreaking. That being that all the Rangers seem to know who each other are. Ninja Steel have apparently heard about other Rangers off screen from Mick, and apparently all the past Rangers seem to interact and hang out. We know, for example, that Gia was going around Tommy's house when she got ambushed by the clone Tommy. I wonder what that was a reference to. It kind of helps clarify Jaden's sort of creepy line in Super Megaforce that we've been watching you, because apparently, well, they have. Yes, I realise there was another payoff for that in Legendary Battle when they all appeared, but strangely Jaden wasn't in the foreground, but Mike was. Anyway, Coda, Wes and Gemma's big plan is to enter the Ninja Steel Command Center for help. This is actually their third time doing it in just 2 episodes, after initially wanting to check that the Ninja Steel Rangers were worthy allies. And they gave them advice in order to unlock their Ninja Blaze Zords. But yeah, surely those 3 appearances must have destabilised the Morphin grid a lot. When they use the transportal devices to travel between worlds, it actually destabilises the Morphin grid. So they only do it in emergencies. Wes says that Time Force made the device, and I'm reliably informed that it has made an appearance in the Shattered Grid Boom comics. Another episode that leaned heavily into there being a problem with the Morphin grid was actually 11 years ago in the brilliant 15th anniversary special Once a Ranger. And Beast Morphers, which as we know starts in 2019, seems to connect to the Morphin grid as well. Also, Boom Comics have been using it to great effect in Shattered Grid and coming up in Beyond the Grid. It seems like the Morphin grid is slowly but also quickly becoming our version of the Force in Star Wars. So it wouldn't surprise me if they lean even further into that in the future. So I can see more and more focus being put on this after years of it taking a backseat. Interesting, I thought that in the original promo for this episode, the trio was shown to refer to Tommy, Wes and Kat. However, the actual trio that caused a lot of the episode's story were Coda, Wes and Gemma. Those 3 were chosen because apparently they're all from different dimensions of Power Rangers. But I do like that they also represent the 3 eras of ownership, that being Saban, Disney and Saban Brands. Coda seems to be exactly who we knew a few years ago, but Gemma has undergone a rather radical personality switch. I checked out the end of RPM again just to be sure, and though she does seem like her usual good-natured, slightly annoying version of herself, if you think about it, she has just been resurrected from being deleted, so maybe over time she's matured. I think I prefer that explanation to the writers just didn't do a very good job. It's also obvious that she's aged. In fact, all of the returning Rangers are their current actors' ages. Weird about Coda though, as I think he's back in the Ice Age. But if they can fetch Rangers from different time periods, why not get the rest of Time Force involved? Over this episode and the last, I really liked how that returning trio influenced the action of the plot of Ninja Steel, and I'd quite like that to set the template for future crossovers. I want more of that, where past Rangers lean in and give their expertise, rather than maybe always having to do a big drastic team up. At the moment, each season exists in an isolated moment of time. Sometimes they have an understanding of the history of Power Rangers, either in terms of their own team, like in Samurai, or in Megaforce in learning of the entire history of Power Rangers, including ones that haven't even happened yet. But they don't usually encounter past Rangers in isolation, and when they do, as in the case of Casey in Super Megaforce, it doesn't really lead to a grand conclusion. So I can see why they do it the way they do, but in a show this long running, I feel like there should be a lot more acknowledgement over what's happened before. Power Rangers nearly ended during Turbo because they'd gotten into that rut of telling the same story over and over and over again. And it was only by serialising the story and giving payoff to old characters and elements that they created a deeper level of story, and to date, one of the best recommended seasons to watch. Strange that out of 25 seasons of story, season 6 still tells the best one. So, Tommy has a son called JJ. Wonder if that stands for Joe Johnson. However, all signs in the show, from the A Season to Remember pretty terrible Christmas special in Zeo, showed that Tommy and Kat are married in the future and have kids and have 2 grandkids, one of whom is a ranger now. But I suppose someone who must be their dad, JJ, here only sounds about 10 years old, so Tommy probably had him soon after finishing up Dino Thunder. They don't explicitly confirm Kat as the mother, but they are holding hands when they go back through the portal at the end of the episode. And in Soul of the Dragon, which is currently canon to the series, they are married. I say currently because if the show doesn't move into the SPD world in about 10 years, which it won't, then the Soul of the Dragon will probably be cast out of the main timeline continuity, so enjoy it while you can. Speaking of Tommy, this is mostly his episode, which, let's be honest, if pushed is what we all would have asked for. And he can still surprise us as well, as he now owns a new Master Morpher, which allows him to access all of his previous powers. I expect we'll have a toy of that within the next 18 months, either from Bandai or Hasbro. Now, I think it's awesome that everyone is still able to morph, even if they gave up their powers or morphers in their own lore. I guess they all seem to know that there's still villains out there that pose a risk to former Rangers. They all seem to know the name Lord Dravon for some reason. And looking back, this seems to have been the case since Forever Red, which was the first time Rangers who had lost their powers had miraculously got them back with no explanation. And I think Jason, Rocky, Adam and Kat can have these Master Morphers as well. And sure, why not TJ, Carlos, Ashley and Cassie? Do any other Rangers have multiple powers? I think that's it. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, please. Speaking of multiple powers, did anyone else clock that Tommy used both his Season 2 and Season 3 morphing call for White Ranger? He said Tiger Zord the first time and White Ranger power when he wanted his Season 3 Zord. So yeah, I think it's safe to say he can still do Turbo even though we didn't see it. Also, Kat did Pink Turbo for some reason, even though that was her 3rd Ranger form, whereas Rocky did MMPR Red, which was his 1st. Gia became her 1st form of Megaforce Yellow. TJ was his 2nd form in Space Blue. However, previously, he was able to turn into Turbo Red in Forever Red, but then 10 years later, he went to In Space Blue in Legendary Battle. So, what's going on? Basically, I think it's easiest if we just assume that past Rangers can turn into any of their previous powers, whether we see it on screen or not. Now, where's our big morphin sequence? There was actually footage on Instagram of the Rangers practicing their morphing calls one after another, so I can only assume that the footage does exist, and maybe will be on an extended cut of this episode, you know, along with the extended version of Tommy's fight scene where he starts as Dino Thunder Black. I also really like that line where the Tommy Robo-clone says to him, "You haven't been Dino Thunder Black in over a decade." It's very true, and it's the kind of line that you can only pull off in an anniversary special like this. Now, Lord Dravon, was this an obvious homage to Shattered Grid? I wonder if he could be who Rita in the comics referred to as Lord Drakon, and maybe she just misheard the name. That was the moniker that Evil Tommy then took over after hearing the story. Wouldn't it be funny if Rita had just got the name wrong the whole time? Or perhaps original Lord Drakon had a brother, Lord Dravon, who knows? It's not clear what dimension he's from, so all theories are valid at this point. Now, his plan was interesting, some might even say familiar, but really, let's get that CGI army out of the way. To anyone watching this video in the future, feel assured that it wasn't acceptable graphics even on the original air date, never mind what year you're watching it back from. I like that they took the legendary battle and effectively turned it inside out. It's almost like their response to people's hostility about it. So instead of the alien armada invading Earth, it's actually the Ninja Steel Rangers and the 3 former Rangers avoiding Dravon's dimension. And instead of an army of Ranger defenders, it's an evil army of Ranger robots against 16 good guys. And instead of keeping the legends hidden or in the shadows, they are front and center from the first frame of this episode. They drive the story, which is exactly why we showed up to watch it. And it's the current team who take a back seat. And it's not the grand finale to their season, so it's perfectly acceptable to play a supporting role this time. They can do that, let them learn from the greats. The only thing we need next time is for them to reverse the pacing of the episode, so instead of 23 minutes, let's put an hour on the table. I barely had a chance to blink during this episode, and it seemed like it was over just as quickly as it had begun. The biggest surprise, of course, was the Falcon Zord, seemingly confirming that past Rangers can also access their previous Zords. That's massive and potentially could be developed further in the comics, and maybe in a future anniversary special if they put a bit more money behind it, which should be possible now Hasbro are pulling the strings. I also like that Tommy called him Buddy. It would have been nice to have heard Rockets Away like from the film, but you can't have everything, and just seeing a Zord for the first time after 22 years is more than I could have asked for. That Falcon Zord delivered the finishing move to Lord Dravon using his terribly titled Mega Arrows was very nice icing on the cake. As we know from the Wild Force anniversary episode, Bandai being able to partially fund it led to the creation of a new bike tie-in, and I wonder if finding out about the plot of this episode is what's led to them scheduling a re-release of Legacy Falcon Zord for this December. Speaking of toys, we've also just had the Evil Red Ranger show up. I really hope that there's going to be more action figures to go with it, because this episode was prime opportunity. The Go-Go Power Rangers theme, which was played at the end of the fight scene, to me seemed like a callback to the 90s movie, but correct me if it's actually just the Ninja Steel music. Anyway, I like that as well. What else was good about this anniversary special, and something that I expect will be the model of future ones, is that Saban must have imposed a strict NDA on the full cast not to talk about it. If you can remember Legendary Battle, we were getting pictures seemingly every day as they filmed it, and then it was an agonising year and a half before that episode even aired. By which time we'd lost interest, the next toy line for Dino Charge was already out, and the scenes were so brief and so overwrought with Sentai footage that it was a disappointment. Yes, there was speculation about the reunion team this time, most of which turned out to be right, and some of it was actually able to be deduced from the actors' schedules and social media updates while they were filming this episode back in March 2017. But this time there were no picture leaks, and we didn't even get it officially confirmed that there were past Rangers coming back until the trio picture hit the web on July 30th, just under a month before the episode aired. So we had a much more controlled, but better, I think, release of information this time leading up to the air date, and our expectations weren't through the roof this time. The episode air date felt more relevant, airing on the 25th anniversary of the first ever episode, in prime time no less, rather than Legendary Battle, which seemed to air as a bit of an afterthought. It also seems like being structured mid-season this time has given America first rights to air it, as it should, so we didn't have to waste any time trying to deduce what was happening by watching dubbed footage from another country where it had aired first. Even the final 7 reappearing Rangers were kept strictly under wraps until a special reveal at Power Morphicon, which was only 10 days before the episode aired. So basically, everything they did in terms of reveals for this episode were right. Good on them, and I expect when we get around to the 30th, they'll do exactly the same again. That's my thoughts on Dimensions in Danger, the Power Rangers 25th anniversary special. What did you guys think? Do you want a Master Morpher too? Ugh. Check out the Instagram at Power Rangergram, and thank you as well if you're subscribing to the Power Ranger Tube. That's it for this time. See you later.